Today we're going to take a look at the Meike 35mm T2.1 cinema lens. Now, I of course have never seen or used these lenses before this review, so it's going to be an interesting test to see if we could find any limitations or immediate gotchas with this lens. Now, initially, I was not looking at the Meike line because they only had two focal lengths, the 50 and the 35. But very recently, within the past month, they released the 85mm, and that's available on their website. It says it's in stock. And the roadmap is to complete the series, the lens series, in 2021. I believe they have a 24 coming out, then a 16, then a 105, and then a 135mm lens. So this will be a full lineup, hopefully by the end of this year, by the end of 2021, if they maintain their schedule. Now, again, I've never used these lenses, so let's jump right into a couple of tests to see what these characteristics are. Let's look at bokeh first, and as we go to close focus, we see our lights, they're getting nice and round in the center. On the edges, we do have a little bit of ovalization, cat's eyes, and not quite even. Now we stop down to 2.8. We're starting to get some geometric patterns very slightly, and it continues at a T4. Now I should mention that, that a lot of the bokeh, it does have onion ringing, unfortunately. I could see that pretty clearly on my computer. Now we're going to take a look at some ghosting flare, and of course we do have our planets in a solar system, as we would expect. But there's kind of a weird flare, kind of a star-shaped near our COVID friend in front by the car. Do you see that shape over there? A little unusual. Now we've stopped down to a T4, and again we have our planets with the outer, of course, outer ring, but no surprises here. And at a T5.6, again, no surprises. Pretty good flare control, I'd say, with the ghosting flare. And with our veiling flare test, of course, we have a large soft light source, and we're going to just get it out of frame, and again, we'll see what the flare looks like. Now we'll stop down to a T4, and as we can see here, the veiling flare is slightly stronger compared to wide open. And when we stop down to a T8, again, gets slightly worse, which is pretty consistent with a lot of other lenses, but not too bad. Now let's take a look at breathing. Now in this shot I'm looking at the roof line and the sky, and of course the window on the lower left hand side. As we go from near to far, we want to see again if there's a shift in the image or a change in the magnification of the image. Now when we go to the chart, we're looking at the same thing, and we're looking to see if the squares are actually changing in size, and they are not. Pretty good. I do need to mention I am trying to barrel focus this lens. It has a 330 degrees of rotation, so the image, if it moves around, it's just from me physically moving the camera. It didn't quite fully lock down. And looking at the chart for distortion, yeah, we could definitely see a little bit of barrel distortion on this lens. Here's a quick check for some chromatic aberration, and as we zoom in and focus in and out, yeah, we see some green there, and a hint of magenta, but really not bad, wide open. And at a T4, let's zoom in, and yeah, I saw a little bit of green, and actually not too much magenta. Again, an improvement. Now with this test, we're just going to check for sharpness across the frame. Now here we punch in post and zoom in to get the relative sharpness. Let's go all the way to the right. And it falls off a little bit, the sharpness, but not dramatically so. And same thing going all the way to the left. Now let's go to the corner, one of the bottom right corner, and to see that, yeah, it's drops off a little bit, but not a dramatic drop off in focus. Same thing with the top left. Again, not that far off from center frame, so really not that bad, wide open. Now as we pull back, we do have a slight amount of vignetting in the corners. Now at a T4, let's go in, we'll zoom into the center to see the relative sharpness. Going to all the way to the right center frame, and it's pretty close. Now let's go all the way to the left at the center of the frame. And again, very similar to the center from what I can see. Now let's go to the bottom right, see what that corner looks like, and maybe it, focus drops off a little bit in the corners at f4, but not dramatically. Same thing with the top left. And overall, I'd have to say that this lens, compared to some of the other lenses in the price range, is doing quite well. Now we go to T8. We're going to repeat this once again at T8. This is what it looks like at the center, all the way to the right. Again, not bad. All the way to the left. Let's move over. Very similar. Now bottom right. Let's go all the way out to the bottom right corner to see if we have much of a drop off. And you know, by the time we get to a T8, it's a fairly even, you know, across the frame. The sharpness is fairly even across the frame. And I did want to mention, even at T4, the vignetting is not bad, and at T8, not bad at all. When it comes to build quality, this lens is quite solid in the hand. It does have, does appear to have all metal construction, at least on the outside. Having said that, though, I did notice one thing immediately with this lens, and that's this. I don't know if you could hear that. Now this lens does have 330 degrees of rotation and the focus is very smooth. I didn't feel any rough spots or any like tightness in it, but it does make a little bit of noise that I noticed right away. It sounds like something is rubbing either on the exterior of the barrel or internally. Now that's a question really for a lens technician to determine what that noise is, or if it's just, you know, part of the design, or is it perhaps, you know, QC where they just this one got through. But I noticed it right away. Again, focus is very smooth. It just is noisier than what I'm used to, and the iris is also a little similar. It makes a little bit of noise, but it's very smooth. Now another thing I noticed immediately when I took this lens out of the box was this. The lens cap. As you can see, Meike has labeled the lens 35mm with the focal length, the maximum aperture of a T2.1, and the minimum focus marks both in meters and feet. I noticed this right away because Meike has gone ahead and marked the lens cap the way many ACs would mark a lens cap if it did not have this information from the get-go. And my first impression was, oh wow, this manufacturer, they're consulting with industry professionals to mark the equipment the way we would on a regular working set. I took this to be a very good thing. Now, as far as the lens markings itself, the witness marks, they are on just the operator side, but they're both in feet and meters. Same thing with the iris. It's only on the operator side. Optically, I thought this is an interesting option, especially again at the price point. There's almost virtually no focus breathing. A very positive thing for cinema. It has a little bit of barrel distortion, but that again is not a deal breaker, at least not for me, because it's not like when you have a perfectly flat field. If you're doing human faces, if you're not doing architecture, landscapes, or product photography, say, it's not a bad thing to have a slight amount of distortion. Again, many of us feel that it adds a little bit of a three-dimensional feel to a two-dimensional image. In terms of focus flatness, it's relatively flat. Again, at the price point, it seems to be a little bit flatter than some of the other lenses I've been testing. And in terms of flare control, it does flare a little bit. Again, kind of right in between of a very contemporary lens, which will have, you know, excellent flare control, and some of these newer lenses that do flare a little bit, and that does add to their character. Now, you could call that a flaw, but for many of us, it's a characteristic that that we like and many clients like. So all in all, I do think these Meike lenses are interesting and definitely worth looking into as they release the remainder of the lineup. So hope to look at these lenses again, especially a number of focal lengths. Hope to test them at the same time to see the consistency, the build consistency between the lenses, and definitely want to keep an eye on it. Well, thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.